Think about how when you look in the mirror each morning, what's looking back at you is a unique manifestation of your DNA. No other individual on the planet shares your unique combination of genetics. Now, of course, the DNA feels sometimes like it's a book. It's a blueprint for how to build you, that exact human. But have you ever wondered how many versions of you are actually possible from the same base DNA? Now, in one sense, we know that you and your personality, the way that you actually like to enjoy the world, is somewhat based in the DNA in your body. Right? It might sound weird to think about, but actually having different DNA, you'd probably view the world like somebody who has a different personality inside your own head. Like if you ever see parents that are like, I don't know why I raised my kids basically the same in the same house, but they're so different. Part of that is the DNA that they got. That's very different. But also hidden in your DNA are physical characteristics that have been either suppressed or released depending on the combinations. Like all the vestigial body parts in humans, they've essentially lost their primary use because evolution didn't favor them for so long, but they're just still there from when they made sense. Like tonsils or that little thing at the corner of your eyeball or your tailbone. In fact, there's actually some amount of kids that are born every year that the full-on tail comes out when they're little babies. They have to be surgically removed. Like the tail could easily be activated again. And on top of that, the new science of epigenetics shows that even the DNA that you're born with is actually sort of variable. Like reading a book where some of the pages are glued together, the story actually changes depending on which parts you skip. And in the same way, when you read the story of DNA, there are proteins called histones that wrap the DNA up so tightly that you can't transcribe what's all wrapped up, so it reads very differently. So in this video, we're talking about human DNA and the many versions of us that are possible. Let's start with what DNA is. Deoxyribonucleic acid, what a mouthful. It's a molecule made up of two intertwined chains, the double helix that you always hear about, made up of just 4 units, right? So think about an alphabet that's just A, B, C, and D. But this happens to be A, T, G, and C, but either way, you just write book after book with these 4 letters. And the book is a blueprint for your hair color, your eye color, your height, everything that you can think about, including our predisposition to certain diseases. Human DNA comes packed into 23 pairs of chromosomes, so 46 in total. Each chromosome might have thousands of different genes on it, and a gene is a sequence. Think of it like a sentence that's made up of letters, and that sentence is read into amino acids, which fold up to be proteins, and the proteins go around our bodies and do all sorts of stuff. So it really is like a book, a blueprint that everything is built from. But when it comes to how many different versions of you there are, we should think about genetics in terms of combinations. So let's do a little bit of mathematics. So I'm about to give you a fact that has blown my mind since like junior high school, and it's never left my thoughts. And it's the simple fact that a deck of cards that only consists of 52 different cards in it has never been shuffled into the exact same order as any other deck of cards in the history of human civilization. I'm not kidding. It seems like you're like, how could that, out of all the times you've shuffled them? No way. But the fact is, it's a factorial problem. 52 factorial is a number that is unfathomably huge. The number is so huge, it's more than every atom on Earth. So there's just no way that dumb little humans, limited by, a second or two to shuffle, have ever found the same combination twice. Now, of course, using our intelligence, we can order new decks in whatever way we want by looking at them, but when it comes to straight random shuffle combinations, never. And that's just 52 playing cards. Now imagine the factorial of the 3 billion base pairs. I mean, if this is more atoms than there are on Earth, what is 3 billion playing cards? I mean, at that point, it's so far beyond making sense, but just think of the magnitude difference and just how insane that is. When you're messing around with random mutations, that's happening in that huge space. But of course, evolution isn't just random. And not every combination is viable either. In fact, most combinations would just end up with a protein that's completely non-functional. It doesn't fit into anything, it doesn't do anything. It's the extremely rare combination of genes that actually does something, either positive or negative at all to your body. And then it's only the ones that somehow help propagate your genes that stay in the gene pool. So when it comes to how many U's there are, here's the main factors. Mutations, right? Like the sun hits your cells, it breaks apart the DNA, it might get put back together wrong, you now have a mutation. That's like sun damage, but also there's internal types of damage, free radicals, you eat crap in your food, and like you don't eat a lot of blueberries to help protect them, and those things like break apart your DNA. Most are benign, some can cause diseases, and then even once in a while it gives you an advantage. Now, of course, the odds of getting hit with a bunch of radiation and ending up like a superhero are like so close to zero zero, you might as well call them zero, but technically not zero. Like where the odds of getting blasted with radiation and just getting cancer and dying are like really, really high. Another factor is just straight recombination. That's why we have two sexes on our planet. During the formation of egg and sperm, chromosomes can actually swap pieces around. That's recombination. And that ensures that the sperm and the egg cells have a different combination of DNA than the rest of your body. And then there's just straight environmental influences, external factors, diet, stress, toxins, that can all take its toll. And on the plus side, actually eating healthy can make physical changes to those histones, the epigenetics that I was talking about earlier. And your body might say, wow, we're feeling really healthy. Let's like untighten some of these genes. And once they're open, maybe it can create whatever, some kind of protein that might lead to more dopamine or more happiness or something better and positive to you. And by the way, these epigenetic changes have been proven to actually be inheritable. Yeah, they can be inherited through cell division. That information does carry over. And sometimes they even get passed down generation to generation, which means, get this, the positive things that you eat or the negative pollution that might actually make an epigenetic change inside of your body might actually be passed down to your children. I know, like, who would have thought like 20 years ago that you can actually do something to your body? It can change the histones, those can be pulled into the gametes in your sex cells, and that can go into the next generation, and holy cow, they will inherit your decisions. The actual genetic code from your decisions will be read differently. So how many different yous are there? More and more the more you think about it. So if there wasn't already like an uncalculatable amount of yous that are possible, when you actually put human decisions on top of it, it opens up an even more vast, crazy number, right? And even if you could calculate all the decisions people make and all the different combinations, which you can't, but even if you could, many genes interact in complex ways on top of it. Some traits are governed by multiple genes. And in fact, it seems like the vast majority of DNA in your body doesn't actually code for anything. Like, we don't even know if that extra DNA had some evolutionary purpose, or it's just always been extra, or if it combines in some sort of like hierarchy in some way. And this is where the importance of artificial intelligence steps into the picture. Now, one way to think about artificial intelligent algorithms is they find needles in haystacks. They truly do. Like a tree cutting off branches, they remove huge swaths of unexplorable space to hone in on what matters. And even though this is a very complicated problem, they also very well might be soon able to solve it. Like in the board game Go, which is much more complicated than chess, artificial intelligence was able to prune out essentially all of the things it doesn't need to explore. By watching humans play and then playing itself, it can kind of slowly cut off these big branches of things that normally would have had to be explored. And of course, our DNA is vastly more complicated than a board game like Go, but nonetheless, tools like AlphaFold have shown that protein folding, which seemed pretty freaking hard to solve, is actually solvable. So it does kind of feel like artificial intelligence has the ability to get in there and figure out how the genes interact with each other, what the combinations actually mean, how human decision making affects epigenetics and what that means for the outcome. And it can make an accurate prediction, meaning maybe for your children, you can use the future of artificial intelligence to actually decide what personality out of the countless they might have you want for them. Radiate that subscribe button, help me get to 7,000 subs.